Hey, it's Robbie, Missouri Worm Supply. This is going to be a pretty long video. There is 2 actual videos put together in one. It's a question and answer kind of a situation with Christy, Zach from Arizona Worm Farm, and Steve with Urban Worm Company. There's a lot of information packed in here. You're going to want to watch this whole video. I know it's a long video, but there is a lot of questions asked and going through some stuff that's really information. Stick around.
A couple of minutes depending on how that's going, and then I'm going to invite the 3 of us plus Dan to just answer whatever questions you've got in general. After that, we'll have lunch at a food truck outside, and then you're going to be in the 3 sessions this afternoon. So we will, my team is probably going to start breaking this area down so that we're ready for our classes tomorrow. But we'll get together and say goodbye at the very end of the day. But this is the last session we'll have in here. So this is my last opportunity. I want to tell you 2 more, and they're terrible. Because you guys have heard all my best ones. These are I'm telling you, these are terrible.
I don't know.
These are terrible.
What you said about the last ones?
Okay, so why did Noah tell the worms they couldn't get on the ark in an apple? Because they could only go in pairs.
That's pretty good.
I love that. I know it's terrible. I still love that. I know it's awful. All right, this is the last one, and this one this is just my 5-year-old grandson loves this joke. My wife hates this joke. My 5-year-old grandson. So I apologize in advance. What's soft and smells like worms? Bird farts. Bird farts.
Because they eat worms.
Bird farts, because they eat worms. So if you have to explain it, it doesn't. I told you it was terrible. That was it. I'm out. You squeezed in all the juice. I'm going to turn this mic over to. Christy talked about this a little bit before. Both Steve and Christy have some online courses that you can take that are business, how you get started in the worm business and things that you should do and planning and that sort of stuff. Since they're here and you're here, you're going to get a free version of that. It's not free, you paid us some, but we're gonna include this. And what I wanted them to do was we're just going to kind of talk through how you go from 0 to being in the worm business. And not about the production side, because that's the stuff you're going to do this afternoon, but this is just the business side of it. Between the 3 of us, we own 3 very different sized businesses, and we've gone through 3 very different journeys to get to where we are. And so I'm going to start just by asking Christy to talk a little bit about the business planning process. What are the 3 or 4 steps that you ought to do, and what does it look like when you're done?
Okay. Because I was so unfamiliar with the business itself, as far as the industry and what it did and what it was all about, I would say that my first mistake was spending as much time on YouTube as I did. And that was just learning from people that I didn't know if they knew anything or not. And I spent lots and lots of time getting nothing but confused. So my view is not your view because you're already in the business in some capacity. Is anybody here doesn't know anything about worms? Okay. Very few of you. So the being confused and learning about something you know nothing about from people you don't know if they know anything about it was a lot of wasted time. I was really happy when I found the conference to attend, and that by being here just because of that very thing. You will not waste a lot of time. And I would just really, really say be careful of who you listen to, because your market is your market. And how you grow tomatoes here and how you grow worms here is very different than in
Philadelphia.
So that's the first thing. As far as opening a business or starting in California and maybe other states, it's always a good idea to just find out where you stand legally in the world of, can I compost in this county? What's the zoning on the property that I need? How much can I compost before I need a permit, and that kind of thing. So I picked up the phone, called the county planners, and I said, I'm thinking about starting a worm farm, and what do I need to know? And the comment was, we don't know anything about worm farming. Of course, this was 15 years ago, so we have made some progress. And all we can consider it to be is livestock. So in our county, with livestock, you have to be on ag zoned land. That was the end of it. As far as becoming a sole proprietor or an LLC or something like that, I chose sole proprietor. I didn't really know where I was going to go with business because I was so new at it, and I ended up just being a sole proprietor and taking that route. Steve, you've got probably a lot more to say about that part.
Yeah, so a lot of people look at LLC and they think it's some fancy, like I have a legitimate business because I have an LLC. Now, the LLC is just like a legal umbrella over you that means if you get sued. Now, a lot of people ask me, should I do an LLC? I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe. What an LLC does for you is it acts as a legal umbrella over you that if somebody sues your business, they don't sue you. You don't want to lose your house because of something you did with your business. The biggest thing I can tell you is if you do an LLC, it's not a magical shield. And what you need to make sure is you keep your finances of your business and your personal life completely separate, or else if you do get sued, then they do what's called pierce the corporate veil, and they come after you personally. What I want to make sure is none of you lose your house because of what you do with your worm farm. In terms of what Christy talked about, make sure, go find out what you can do in terms of composting in your state. What I will tell you is that if you are not being paid, and I will just say this is true in most states, if you are not being paid to take waste, or you are not composting something really difficult like animal mortalities or something like that, all you need to do is send a letter to the state in most cases and tell them this is what I am doing here. You don't need to have a compost permit. And I don't know what the numbers are and hear what kind of volume you're taking, but if you're being paid to take waste, or you're composting more than it's like 1,000 yards a month or something like that, you don't need a permit. So go find where it is what's the threshold at which you need to be a permitted composting operation. Most states have no clue what vermicomposting is. The problem is the word composting is in the term vermicomposting. We know it's a cleaner, less sticky process. The regulators don't know that. So what I would tell you in general, and of course I'm telling you how not to get sued on one hand, I'm also going to tell you this, is that the smaller you are, the more I would tell you to start doing it and then ask for forgiveness later if somebody looks you up, because you are probably not violating the law unless you are bringing in gobs of stuff, being paid to take it and composting it on your property next to, some bougie, neighborhood that, people are going to complain about the smell. So that's what I would say. The legal formation, don't let that stop you from starting. Just like you said, you can do a sole proprietorship, you can do an LLC, then you can do an LLC subchapter S. later, get a little bit more sophisticated with it. But don't let any of that stuff stop you from starting. What I would tell you is that if you are going to have a business, have some amount of business insurance, liability insurance specifically. And you will need more insurance if you are going to be hosting workshops on premises. That's a different kind of thing. When you go for insurance, make sure that you are being very upfront about what it is. Be very honest about the totality of what you are doing in your business, because if you end up getting sued for something that's outside the scope of your policy, congratulations, you are not going to be covered by that insurance policy in that case.
So just a couple of comments on that. Here in Arizona, and I know I can't give you advice for your state. You need to find that out yourself. But here in Arizona, if you are a farm, you can do all your own on-farm composting, almost an unlimited amount. We had a composter misbehaving around the corner, and they actually got shut down because they were so smelly. But if you do it properly, it won't smell. But having agricultural zoned land in Arizona is really quite important. It lets me do almost whatever I want. We define what we do as farm work, and farm work is protected in all of the places that I've looked at with any clarity. Rhonda Sherman wrote a book. She's a professor, no longer retired professor at NCSU. But one of the things in the book is a story about a California company that was a composting company. They were growing worms. They were taking in waste. The state of California came in and redefined them as a waste producer rather than a composting, an agricultural concern, and it literally put them out of business. The regulations, the costs, the filing, the stuff they had to write down and report on literally put them out of business. So if you live in one of those states, you just need to be aware of what you can and can't do. And to Steve's point, if you stay below certain thresholds, or if you're buying and reselling stuff, you just need to know what matters in the place where you're doing the work that you want to do. As Frank pointed out, there are some farmers markets where if you didn't grow it yourself, you can't sell it. In other places, you can do other things, and I agree with Steve. Ready, fire, aim. Try it until they tell you no. You can keep doing it. Business insurance has become one of my most expensive costs. Between workers' comp, liability insurance, and property and casualty and insurance on the trucks, we spend almost $100,000 a year on insurance. I'm bigger than most of you are going to start at. You get there, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, that's what we did. These have all grown. But I will tell you that the Farm Bureau insurance, if you operate an agricultural enterprise and you use someone like Farm Bureau, it is significantly less expensive. So if you're going to make your own castings, if what you're going to do is just buy and sell stuff, your homeowners probably covers you. The bigger you get, and when you start exploring some of these other areas, if you're going to have your own CFTs, if you're going to grow your own compost, I strongly recommend you look into somebody who actually does farming insurance for a living, because they'll get the risk. Because what we sell as a soil amendment, which we define as a soil amendment as much as we can, so we stay out of all the rules around advertising for fertilizers. What we do as a soil amendment is almost risk-free. There's almost nothing anybody can do with your product that would cause any kind of a problem. It's a natural amendment. It's super, super easy. So when they come in and tell you need, that $5 million worth of liability insurance is going to cost you $25,000 a year, they don't understand the problem. And so that's why we found dealing with farm people is really advantageous.
I would say along those lines, as far as insurance and regulations and so on, in California, we can take one product, we produce vermicompost, and it can be categorized 4 different ways. It could be a soil amendment, it could be a specialty fertilizer, it could be a mineral element amendment, or it can be a soil amendment with a microbial guarantee. It's all the same product. In California, how you advertise, what comes out of your mouth, what's on your website, all is an extension of that label that has to be approved. And if you say you're an NPK specialty fertilizer and you guarantee an analysis, which you get through a lab, and you put that on your label, you can only talk about NPK. You can't talk about microbes because that's not on your label. So it's really helpful to understand, and in some cases, talk to a bunch of people about, I got one product, but which category should I fall into? And, years ago, our inspector, who was really a cool farmer, talked me into being an NPK specialty fertilizer. I have since changed. I'm now a soil amendment with a microbiology guarantee, because what's vermicompost all about? About microbes. It is a soil amendment, it is organic matter, but I no longer really care, and really your customers don't care what it is. They're buying you, they're buying what you do, what you help them with. They're buying you, helping them solve problems. But what you can legally talk about is really important in California. So just know what you can do and what you can't do, and go from there.
I spent all of 2017 banging my head against the wall in downtown Phoenix with regulators, trying to explain to them what I wanted to be without even really clearly knowing what I wanted to be. What I learned was they didn't know, and so I could tell them. And so I wrote a 1-page, 7-bullet point, very simple explanation of my business. And I said, the headline was, the Arizona Worm Farm is an agricultural enterprise dedicated to growing worms and other stuff. And I went into them and I said, we're a farm, regulate us as a farm. And they said, okay, because they just didn't know. They just didn't know. So I told them how to regulate us. And when I finally got to that point, I was fine. When I went in to ask them, it was 7 different boxes in 14 different places and 9 different forms. When I went into there and I said, this is what we are, this is how we want to be regulated, they said, okay. And they've more or less left us alone since then. It's been really good.
I love that approach. One thing that both of you talked about, especially Christy, with the NPK, you'll see the fancy, some of the fancier, some of the store-bought fertilizers or store-bought worm castings are going to have an NPK on there. Don't even put NPK. When you put NPK on there, you are claiming yourself that you are a fertilizer and you will be regulated. You could be regulated as such if somebody that you like. So don't even advertise an NPK. It's like, why would you do it when it's almost trace amounts of every nutrient anyway? So don't even mess with NPK. Be soil amendment. Don't go to a regulator asking questions. Dictate the terms just like Zach did, because you will get regulated in some box that doesn't cleanly fit what you're doing anyway. So
take a look at my label. It doesn't say fertilizer. It doesn't say amendment. It doesn't have an NPK. I don't have any trouble selling this. I will tell you one thing that I did that I'm proud of. This used to say worm castings, and I relabeled them premium worm castings, and people wanted the premium. It was the same. They wanted the premium. At one point in time when we were transitioning labels, we had both of them on the shelf, and some lady returned the regular worm castings to get the premium. But if you just put premium worm castings on your bag and then produce locally by your worm farm name, that's all you need to have. All these other things that I put on here, they just don't, you just don't need that. And so what I found is the less I say on the label, particularly for stuff that I'm selling here, the safer I am and the happier my customers are.
Can I add one thing real fast too? Most people are not planning on selling on Amazon. If you are planning on selling anything on Amazon, don't say the word micro, because it will get flagged as pesticide, believe it or not. And so just stay away from micro talk on Amazon or other third-party platforms like Walmart.com or Target.com or Amazon. Won't do it.
I know you guys didn't talk much about this, but like, say you wanted to sell on Amazon, what about like OMRI and your certificate? None of that. Do you guys need that, or?
You don't need OMRI to sell on. You don't. No.
Yeah, Zach and I were just having this conversation. Understanding what the word organic means anymore is really kind of important. And when people get educated about what really organic means, if they don't really get it, then it's kind of an eye-opener for them. And I think that my big lesson on that was, in the very beginning, not knowing anything about this, the only way I could really figure out why my customers were telling me I'm not having any luck is, yeah, I had my own store with my broccoli. This is raised bed potting mix. It says everything's in it, and I put the broccoli in it. Raised bed potting mix, it's got everything in it. I put worm castings and the broccoli in it. The broccoli did great. The broccoli didn't do so great over here. And anybody heard of Rosalind Creasy? She's an author, and she wrote a couple of really cool books. I went to a seminar, listened to her. Afterwards, I went up and I said, Rosalind, these two plants right here. And I always take plants wherever I go. If I go to farmer's market or a festival, I always take befores and afters, with and without, all these things just for visuals. I took them to her. I said, Rosalind, what's going on? I'd probably been in the business a year and a half. And I told her my story. I went to Home Depot. I got this raised bed potting mix that has everything in it, and it's not doing very well. And she's kind of an opinionated person. And she said, well, we have to understand that most everything in the bagged market is sterile. There really isn't any life in it that can support plant growth. So what you've done is add some life by adding your worm castings, put some plants in it, and they responded. This over here doesn't have any support to it, so the plants really can't grow. It says it's organic. She says, well, organic, what does organic mean? So when I learned that, and I understood that people were not having success, it helps me understand how to help them. Because I thought that a bag of organic potting mix was really good stuff. And then she said, well, you don't even know where the worm castings came from or how old they are. They could have been bought overseas and been 20 years old, and they say it's worm castings. Well, it is, but what is it? So the educational process that we help people go through is really, really important. What does OMRI listed mean? You know, if you've got a variety of products in some fertilizers or a catalyst that goes into a compost tea and it's OMRI certified, what my understanding is every ingredient in there, all the way up the chain, has to be found to be organic in nature. So do the cows eat organic grass that's never been sprayed with pesticide? How far up the chain do we have to be? How complicated does it have to be? How expensive is it? And does anybody really care?
Yeah. So,
Hey guys, if you like what you're seeing, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell.
I think I talked yesterday about online sales. I like Shopify. I started off a long time ago with Squarespace. Shopify, which is called a subdomain. Don't worry about any of this. But I also have the blog side, which is the content side of my site is on WordPress, which is a better content platform than an e-commerce platform. What I would tell you is that if you are going to do content, just put things out there that are helpful. Teach first, then sell. What I would say that if you wanted to reproduce what I was doing at Urban One Company, start with writing small articles that cover a very small, specific topic that somebody's going to be very thankful for. Don't write the magnum opus of worm composting. Well, it's far easier to get the traction on that more comprehensive article on vermicomposting if you have these other things and you've already gotten that traffic. It's sort of like this network of content. It's very organic in that sense. There's not so much formula for how to do that. Website stuff tends to be very intimidating for people, but it is one of those things, just like with the business, that you just have to start. Get something out there, hang your shingle, and say, here's where you can come to buy, or here's where you can come to learn. I would say choose what it is that you want to do first. If you want, don't try to do content in e-commerce if you're a one-person shop. Just focus on one thing, see if you can get some traction, and then start selling. If you're doing content like I did first, do the content, build the trust, get the audience, and then sell to them. If you want to do kind of e-commerce right away, don't worry about that. You're going to have to do a bit of a different kind of marketing, I think. Have more in-person, like almost cold calling your local stores, stuff like that, and sort of build the commerce side separately.
Let me just, so the flip side of that, we use GoDaddy. Vanilla cost me $9.95 a month. It was $9 to register my domain name. Do the one you want to use and do 4 or 5 related to it, because you never know what's really going to work. It's not very expensive. But I used GoDaddy. Get the basics out there. Where are you? What hours are you open? What do you sell? GoDaddy has you can default all the pictures, all this stuff. Just take the easy path, but get something out there. I was just looking up, in my worst month in 2024, which was June. June is our slowest month, hot as hell here. It's our worst month. 4,365 people went to my website to look for information and stuff that we want. They didn't all come down here, but they go. When you Google worms, you want your place to show up, and then you just want to have the basic information. So don't be intimidated. It's not hard. I'm not a tech guy. There are these builders. They're just there. You can get the basics in easily, and then you can grow from those basics. So if you go to my website today, it's still GoDaddy. It's still just $9.95 a month. My guys want me to go to WordPress, and they want me to go to Shopify and do some fancier things, and I'm just hesitant because I'm not very good at it.
I think you put me back on the right track there, because I was thinking more my world and less this world. What Zach said is absolutely correct. There are some extremely simple things, and it's amazing that a lot of people don't even do this. Have that website, make sure that your address is on either your header or the footer of your website. What that means is that it is going to be on every page on your website. Every page on your website is going to have a header and a footer. So your address is going to be there. What that does is it helps Google and other search engines understand where you are. Your website is going to communicate what you do. So if somebody says, where can I find worm castings near me? It is going to be very easy for you to show up on that first page of Google if you have that done. The other thing I would do is sign up for it's either Google My Business or Google Places. It's one of those two things. Make sure your business is listed on Google. That helps you. That's what gets you to show up on Google Maps. The other thing it does is if you Google where can I buy worm castings near me, you're going to see Arizona Worm Farm, and it's going to be this really big area. It's either going to be a big chunk of real estate at the top of the webpage, or on the sidebar that's going to have a nice picture of Arizona Worm Farm, all the reviews, and it takes up so much space on the screen. So the great thing about the worm world is the worm world and the tech world don't actually overlap a whole hell of a lot. So if you can do the worm stuff well and do the tech okay, you should be able to be very visible on Google for somebody that's searching for your product near you. You do the basic things. Be very clear on your website about where you are through putting that address on your header or your footer. Be clear with what you sell. That will take care of itself, and then sign up for Google My Business.
Here's a fun fact for you. All this stuff replicates. I have to make sure that I change my hours. My address is on, but my hours in 4 different places. I have a Google Places that I fill out the information on. I claimed that there was no cost to that at all. We're on Yelp, and so I have to change my hours on Yelp. We're on Apple's Maps, has a different repository for hours and that sort of thing. And there's still a Yellow Pages group out there that has some information on you. So when I change my hours, I change it in those 4 places, because I've had people show up here on a day that we were supposedly closed and show me the thing from Apple Maps that says we're open, and they're mad. But I didn't do that. But if you get on Google Maps, if you fill out that Google form, then you're a real business, and they'll show your hours, and they'll have directions to you, and they'll have pictures. They'll just do that for you.
I keep getting phone calls, people saying, we're the verified blah, 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 whatever.
No.
Your stuff on Google is not verified. Anything, is there any of those?
No. Google sends you a postcard. When you put your address in Google, I wish I knew what it was, either Google My Business or Google Places, they send you a physical postcard to the address there, which has a code that you go back to Google and say, here's my code, and it goes, okay, we've now verified that this is your address. What I will say is, many of you have home-based businesses. Expect when you do this, it's going to help your visibility on Google greatly. You are also going to get somebody knocking on your front door asking for loans. It happens. It happens. What I would do is you have to put the hours on Google that you're open because you're a business. You can put the hours, but I also have, there's one of my pictures, I may need to update this, that do not show up here. We are, this is a home-based business, please don't, please don't come here. That actually has to be one of your pictures. A lot of people aren't going to see it. Probably once a year somebody shows up at my house looking for loans or loan castings. It actually doesn't happen that much. Most people are going to call, but I just want to warn you. It's the trade-off of having the visibility there. It's like, boom, you're now a big business. Somebody's going to show up at 123 Maple Lane with 4 loans.
I'm up in Canada, so I don't know if it's different, but I did have to verify mine. I had to do a full video and show my shop, show like my operation in the shop, computers. I had to get like a piece of mail that had like a bill with the company's name and everything on it. They didn't send me a postcard in the mail, but I did have to go through that process.
I think that's unique to Canada.
I
had to do that too. Yeah, I had to do that too. I had to
And it may be when you sign. It may be that we predate some of those processes.
Yeah, they wanted a video, like I said, of me with the building and the address going in, and then showing my products to show that that's really what it was.
All I want to tell you is it's worth it. It's not. There's no cost to it. It makes you credible, and it helps people find you. And it's worth it. It's worth doing. It's worth reserving your footprint on the internet. It's worth creating a website. If you use GoDaddy, and I don't know about the others. There are others that are websites in a box. But if you use GoDaddy, they'll help you get on search engines. So you push a button and you say, I want to be searchable, and then it'll automatically, when somebody Googles, where can I buy worms or where can I buy castings, you come up. And if they do it in Google Maps and you're local, you come up ahead of anybody on the internet or anybody else. Yeah, question. Hey!
Hi. Hey.
Sorry, they're not friendly dogs. They're not friendly dogs. We told you. Yeah, you're up.
I'm wondering if any of you can advise on a place to learn more about SEO, because
formulaic about it. I will tell you that in order to be decent at SEO as a worm farm business is to do the things that I talked about. Have the header, have the address clearly marked, have what you do on your website, be very clear, speak in plain English. What you want to do is don't write for an algorithm, don't write for a computer, write for a human being. Google is getting much better at, they understand what you do based on what they see on your website. So much of what's out there for SEO is snake oil. Google wants to get rid of them trying to game the system to rank for Google, and they're much better now about rewarding those who have simply helpful content on their website that is clear and written in plain English. So don't do the whole thing with keyword stuffing like, oh, I've got worm castings. We're the best worm castings provider in Southwest Missouri. We do a lot of worm castings. So, like using the word over and over again, they actually start penalizing that stuff. SEO is another BS kind of thing, to be honest with you. Write helpful content, be very clear about what you do. I will say write higher on the page. Don't write a ton of stuff. Get to the point. We sell worm castings in this area. That's 80% of it right there. Don't be fancy. There's nothing that technical to it.
I get an email from Google every month because I signed up through Google, and it tells me what people searched to find me. So of those 3,300 people that actually clicked on my website, 564 of them searched for worm farm. So that tells me that's what people are, they're looking for worm farm. And so I include in my headers worm farm. That's it. That's the extent of what I do. Yeah, and it's free. I don't pay for any of this stuff. I get all that automatically.
Beyond that, what I would say, like your pictures on your website, you're going to take a picture with your cell phone. It's going to be IMG 2584. Two things you want to do. You want to shrink it so where it's not like 2 megabytes. So you want your website to load faster, but you want to then rename it to what that's descriptive of. So if it's you're holding a handful of worms, call it handful of worms with your website's name, and that's another way that the Google robots can kind of do what they can do. That's again more on the technical side, the less human side. That's one other.
It helps your organization in your own computer as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kendra, you have a question?
Yeah, what about like analytical tools, like analyzing the tracking?
Yeah. Google Analytics so you would use something like Google Analytics. And analytics is just simply the statistics of your website. How many people show up to the website, what pages they land on, the path that they take. I used to be way better at that stuff than I am now. Google Analytics changed about a year or two ago. I would not, these things when you're starting out are completely at the margin. It's just not worth paying that much attention to. Don't worry about analyzing your traffic until you have traffic. So there's three things you have to worry about for a business as far as I'm concerned. And I'm going to use web terms, but we can apply it to offline businesses too. One is the traffic, and the offline term for that is how many people know about you and know that you exist, or how many people come to the Arizona Worm Farm or come to your website. So there's the overall traffic. There's the conversion rate. Conversion rate is how many of the people that actually show up to your place of business or show up to your website buy something from you. And then the third thing is your average order value. How big is the sale that somebody gives you? Those are the three big numbers. In that order is the order of decreasing importance. So for you just want to get people to show up to your worm farm or show up and understand, be aware of your business. Then you want them to buy. Then you're going to worry about how much they actually buy. Which is why my presentation yesterday maybe wasn't totally appropriate, because it assumes that you've already got the traffic and already got the sales. Your first thing to do, and don't even worry about Google Analytics and what people are doing. If 10 people are coming to your website in a day, it almost doesn't matter what they're doing. You just want there to be more than 10 now.
How do you like build numbers?
How do you you know that there's 10. Okay, that part, you would then sign up for Google Analytics, which means, and I don't want to go too far down this, they're going to give you this little chunk of code that you're going to put in your header, not the header people see, but it's the header file on your website. The app, GoDaddy would actually have a way for you to go, what's your code, and then it's going to talk to Google, it's going to, all that stuff's going to happen in the background, and then you can come and go, what is my traffic? That's pretty much.
So I'm not a sophisticated tech user, but GoDaddy and Constant Contact tell me what I need to know. GoDaddy, Constant Contact, and Google are telling me. Constant Contact tells me that for the Arizona Worm Farm, if I send my email out Tuesday morning between 10 and 10:30, more people will open it. So our emails go out Tuesday morning between 10 and 10:30. I get an extra 5 or 7% bump, but they'll tell me that. It's one of the reports that they track, and they'll tell me that if I send it out then, I get more users. Those kinds of things I get. They'll tell me where my customers are coming from. And so I know that in Phoenix there's a suburb called Gilbert. I can see the number of people that are coming from Gilbert, and so I can schedule special things for, that's the East Valley, for the East Valley, to target those customers specifically. Let's pivot for a second. We've only got 5 or 10 more minutes. Let's just talk about packaging for a second, because that's, I think, real important for getting started. How do you package your products?
I've gone through a lot of different generations of packaging, and I would say that when my sister worked with me for a while, Jack, my husband, and another person, every 6 months it was, we're going to try this. And we'd be like, oh no. And it was really, really obnoxious. Well, you have to really end up finding out from your area is if you're going to have people come to you, or if you're going to go to farmers market, or if you're going to go to stores, or if you're going to wholesale. How much are you going to produce, and how are you going to sell it? So for us, in my marketplace, it ended up to be small, medium, and large. After lots and lots and lots of trials, it ended up to be my 2-pound bag is my biggest starter bag. And it sells.
Christy, what bag do you put it in? What's the
physical
package?
bag is actually a kind of a shiny black coffee bag.
And where did you buy that?
Bought it from Tricor Braun. And we buy 500 at a time, and I have labels printed, and I put them on. So it's a shiny metallic black bag. It holds 2 pounds. We have a foot sealer, an impulse foot sealer that we seal the bag with, and that's already done. In California, we also have to add a lot number so I can track when that product, the material was produced if somebody were to call me. I've never had it called, but in California, that's something that we have to do. So that's the small bag. I don't think I've ever had anybody come back and buy another small bag. They're $15, 2 pounds. They always come back and say, I want a 20-pound bag. So the 20-pound bag is my other bag, and I didn't want to have pre-printed bags because I needed to buy 5,000, and I really didn't know, I didn't want that money tied up, and I didn't know how long it was going to take me to sell that, because we don't produce a lot of material. The larger bag is my biggest bag, and that's a 50-pound bag, but that's my market. My market that I established is really, really a lot of vineyards. So a vineyard could come in, or an orchard, a tree grower of some sort, some kind of a sort of a farmer, and they can plant 200 vines with one 50-pound bag, which is from Uline, a sand bag. They breathe a lot. They dry out really quickly. So that's the the heads up to the person buying this. This is going to store well. So use it right away. And for planting, they can get 200 vines out of one 50-pound bag that we retail for $80.
Uline sandbags are fine for castings, fine for worms. Go to Vistaprint or something like that and just get like a hang tag that you can just, the little string that comes around the sandbag, that is good. We're selling worms here. Like, our customers are not wanting something too fancy. It is really, the packaging does not need that much thought.
Go ahead.
Oh, Christy, I was just wondering if your smaller bags are there holes in them?
Are there holes in our bags? I actually have a little perforator that I put a little thing that looks like a worm to have a breathable hole. I tried these and they went to stores and they just didn't hold up. But they would be fine to sell right off of the farm.
Packaging that you see here, I recommend highly if you are selling it yourself and can package it the same day. So we package on Friday for Saturday sales. If we haven't sold that by Monday, I got a problem. So they don't hold up, they don't last well. I buy the cheapest package I possibly can. I do like the colored label. I get those from, I'll send you the link, a company called Print Runner. And they cost me between 25 and 40 cents a piece in rolls. And then we just apply them in rolls. Yes?
Just for anybody here, I use sandbags for my compost itself by the foot. Also because I want to have that packaging be reusable. And in my area, when we start changing stuff, sandbags work really well. And I have a homemade screen printer, and I just screen print my logo on the bag, and I have a tag that I hang on the string. And I actually saw my first sandbag randomly out reused, and I was like,
Yeah.
Do you just suggest that customers just work it into their soil?
Yeah, so we practice no-till gardening. So we don't want anybody to disturb what's under the ground. We tell them 4 to 5% castings to volume, mixed in if you're planting a tree or you're planting for the first time. After that, we tell them to just apply it on top. And we like a lasagna method. So we tell you castings, then compost, then mulch. And when you're ready to do it again, just do it again. Just castings, then compost, then mulch. Michael, did you have a question?
We use sandbags, woven poly bags. We do everything we can to get people to bring it back. A lot of people will bring it back. And almost nobody cares about having a brand new bag with castings in it when they come to our store. They will think they're happy for us to put castings in and use bags only as much as well.
We sell, that's a really important point. The customer wants what's inside the bag. And if you can get them to come to you, you can get away with almost anything. We sell our teas in a jug that costs me $1, but I'll give you $1 off if you bring your own jug or your own container. And I would say more than half of my customers bring their own. They bring their own jugs, they bring 5-gallon buckets. We sell buckets. We got a guy who collects buckets from food processors. He brings them here, and then we mark them up a little bit, and we sell 5-gallon buckets. And so people will buy those and come back. I have an idea that I'm going to try in the next month or 2 or 3. So far, I haven't done it, but I think that unscreened castings right out of our wedges are the best castings they can buy. And I'm going to try and convince people to come and bring a 5-gallon bucket, their own 5-gallon bucket, take the casting directly out of the wedge, and pay me $40 instead of $45 for a screen bucket. I think I'll end up with more money and they'll end up with a better product. And so I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that, see if I can get some percentage. And for us, we do a huge volume here in February, March, and April. We have a huge volume, and so we have to figure out how to do it efficiently. but I think we're going to try and do that. Does anybody here get pre-printed bags? Anybody using pre-printed bags? Are you? Yeah. How do you like that? Yeah. Any idea what those cost?
No, I get them off of Alibaba, and Canadian, they're probably over, and they're around this big, and they're probably around $80 Canadian.
Yeah, so that's a choice. I mean, it's a fine choice. The further you are from the sale, the more important packaging matters and what it looks like has to be. If you're giving that to a reseller, to a retailer who's going to sell it, then the package needs to tell the story. If you're selling it yourself, we're using Uline sandbags for our worms, and I think those sandbags are around 60-70 cents a piece. So for us, it's not worth it to have that bag printed. But if you go out and look at our compost bags, compost raised bed mix, mulch, we get those all printed, logo, done. It only adds 6 or 7 cents per bag, and I find our customers really appreciate that.
And where do you guys get those bags?
So here in town, I get them from Arizona Bag
What
Company.
mail are they?
I think they're 6, but I'm not 100%. We've gone from 4 to 8, and I think we settled on 6 mil. The question is for our compost. I think most of ours are going out in a 6 mil bag, and I tried 8. I didn't need to spend the money for 8. 4 was too thin; they were breaking open. But the 6 got us a real good seal.
And are they perforated? Do they have?
We poke holes in them. They don't come perforated, but we poke holes in them.
There is a big upfront cost in doing pre-printed bags, so depending on how they get printed, you're either paying for printing plates, or either way, you're going to have to pay for a lot of bags up front. So I'm kind of big hypocrite here because I'm telling you to use Uline. We have the plastic. The fancy plastic bags, because we would like to get into retail, the very thing I told you not to do. I wrote a check for about $8,000 for just bags. That's just a big cost to get over. I just say don't worry about it. Like, the added value you get from doing that, I'm not even sure it matters. It allows you to sell into bigger stores because you have a barcode, all the fancy stuff you need on the label. I'd say most people just don't need it.
Okay, so I don't want to stop you from having what I hope will be one of the best brisket sandwiches you've ever had. We're gonna break here. There's a food truck waiting for you. They have